I'm here to set the record straight. I've been accused of waffling, and I'm here to own up to it. Waffles are better than pancakes. And refresh, and yep, I lost 5 subscribers. Some people take their breakfast sweets very seriously. Some people click on my videos looking at my thumbnails and reading my titles, thinking that the video that they're about to see is a very quick, comprehensive introduction to a game, how to play it, maybe some examples, and send you away. And maybe that's on me. My advice for those people is look for the channels, there are a lot of them, that do exactly that sort of process. And once you find that channel, try to stick with it and make that your default resource whenever you need a video showing you how to play a game. Alternatively, read the rule book that comes with the game. But I understand. I've looked up videos for board games before. I get it. I know why we do it. I don't want to compete with the sterile process of simply checking off boxes to explain how to play a game to you and overflood you with information. Overflood? If I may be so bold and so vain, I actually do these intros because I would like to speak to people and I would like for them to get an idea of what these videos and what this channel is more all about. It's a little bit more of a connection. So when I do board game unboxings, you're getting my first impressions of that game, and when I read through the rule book, you're getting my first impressions of how the rules are laid out. And if I try to go any more in-depth than that, it's because I'm discovering mechanics and I'm trying to share them with you so that you know whether or not a game is right for you based on whether or not we're kind of on the same wavelength. I realize that's a pretty niche ask, and it's only going to really appeal to a small group of people. But hey, if you've watched this far in the video, welcome to the small boat. It is on that note that I want to talk about a board game that I acquired some time ago, quite some time, and when challenged by Shar to hurry up and provide a game so that we can play our allotment of one new game a month that I said I was going to do at the beginning of this year. But make sure you have learned the game first. I thought I'll go browse my large selection of games. Which one's missing? Have you noticed yet? You can't actually view it. It's missing from the shelves back there. We're about to look at it, but you know. I looked through the rules, I learned how to play, I thought this might actually be garbage. Then I decided instead of putting it away, I would give it an old college try. I unboxed it, I laid it out, I started handing components to Shar, and we started playing. Then we agreed that it was garbage. And that really sucks, because Robert Asprin is a prolific, rest in peace, a prolific author. Is prolific the right word? He's got a large body of work. Large enough. I just realized I should have started this whole thing with, hopefully you didn't myth-click the video. God, hindsight is 2020. I could stop and re-record, but I don't have that kind of time. If you haven't heard of this series, I don't really know if there is a name to the series. I've been calling them the Myth series, or the Myth Inc., or whatever series. I believe Another Fine Myth came out in 1978. It is a very quick fantasy paperback novel. It details the adventures of our characters here on the cover. This is Skeeve. He is from the dimension of Claude, or Claw, I forget, it's been a minute. He's a human, and all humans are Claudes, essentially. We've got Oz here, and if this is starting to feel familiar, it's because this was reprinted in many different editions, a few different publishers, and the covers look drastically different. We have some very cartoony, very outlandish caricatures of these characters on some of the covers, but if you'll forgive me, this is Tananda, I believe, the Trollop, and that word is not to be used in a derogatory sense. She is a female troll, and Oz here is the Prevect, and they usually start out by calling him a pervert, and they're like, I mean Prevect, Pervect. And that's Gleep the Dragon, whose only word that he can say is Gleep. There are a lot of these, as I said. Volume 2, Myth Conceptions. We go on with Myth Directions, and you're starting to sense the pattern here and why I can't really assign a singular title. Hit or Myth. Mything Persons. I would love to do a reading club with you guys. I would love that so much. Little Myth Marker. And I would absolutely read these. This was my very first myth book. This was the one that I found available in the resale shop, the thrift store down the street. Myth Inc. link. Saw this, saw the little demons and the dragon on the cover. Didn't care much for the mafia suit guy, but I thought, you know what? That looks fun. And that was my introduction to the world of Myth Inc. Now, if you want a very brief rundown, this is kind of like a fantasy-only version of Futurama. There are dimensions, and there is a modern sort of essence. Like I already showed you, we've got like these gangster dudes that are in the company. But these guys are basically just trying to make money and be famous enough to make more money. That's what this whole company is trying to do. Robert Aspirin passed away, and Jody Lynn Nye has picked up the series and has written many of them standalone to continue the saga. Every book is really standalone. You don't necessarily have to read any of the other books. And I say this as someone who read book number 8 before I read anything else. It might give you a little bit more appreciation for things that are happening, but each adventure is its own thing. This is not by far a complete collection. But I give you that intro because I bet you didn't know that there was a Myth Fortunes board game, and this is what we're going to take a look at right now. So let's get on the table. Oh yeah, baby, we're clocking in at 8 minutes of waffling. This is the caricaturish art style that I was telling you about. This is Tananda. We've got Gleep the dragon here, who oddly just never really changes that much. Skeeve here, our main character with whom we can relate. One of our gangster dudes. And this is Oz, and this guy is just a ridiculous monster. I saw this and I thought to myself, I've got to have that. It's a Myth Fortunes board game. How awesome is that? This was published by Mayfair Games way back in, I want to say 1989, 1990. So 12 years after Robert Aspirin's Another Fine Myth. It's not based on any one book, but it features a ton of characters from the book series. It's got a quad fold board. It uses the classic board game elements of chips, dice, and pawns. These little movers are just about as basic as you can get. But the interesting thing is it comes with 2d6, 2d4, and 2d8. Now, how different is that for a game that came out in '89 that has nothing to do with any sort of fantasy whatsoever, just based on a fantasy book? As you'll soon see, there is no sort of roleplay element to this or adventure element whatsoever. We have 4 different decks of cards, and we'll get to those in just a second. The first thing I want to do is show you this very noisy board. It's a very high quality board. The art is fine. It's just fine. I mean, this is extremely evocative of, I brought this up before when I was looking at the Dungeons & Dragons Fantasy Forest books. The art looks like it came from the kinds of social studies and reading comprehension school books that I would get. They would be huge, thick hardbacks, but they would just be chock full of different stories. You'd have all kinds of different stories, and you might have 20 or 30 in one volume, but at the end of a story, you would have all these questions asking you, why or why not did Charles decide to help Matt? How do you think the lizard felt when its tail got stepped on? Things like that. I mean, look at this. You have this zany, wild, cartoony style. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. In fact, I think it probably fits the theme of the books a lot better than the more serious art. It's just something I never considered because the book that I read first had the serious art on the cover. And then I found all this, and indeed you can find at this time in existence 2 omnibus collection books. One's out of print, I believe, of course, the first volume. The second one, I think, you can find... I didn't know about the second one until yesterday, actually, so I think that it's new. But it's got exactly these designs on the cover. They're like weirdly serious versions of these caricatures. So I have to imagine it's based on earlier edition art, because like I said, there have been a lot of covers for these books on which this game is based, and a lot of different interpretations, if you will, of these characters. But like, there's Oz again with all of his teeth. He just looks like the most horrific goblin, but he's really just Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy. They're just out making money and trying to get some gumballs. I do want to point out that the art that is depicted here is definitely supposed to be able to be sexier. You can see we've got Tananda the Trollop here. We've got this demon lady. I don't know her name. There was a character named Bunny. I think Bunny probably appeared in the books after all of this, but I believe she is just another human. And it's been a long time since I read a Robert Aspirin book. I reacquired all of the ones that I showed you so that I could start reading them again. If it's not clear at this juncture, it kind of looks like there's no rhyme or reason to these spaces, and that would be correct. There are spaces, definitely, and each one has a designation. If you haven't noticed, there are numbers and letters at the edge of the board, so you can kind of refer to each space by its coordinate. In fact, the manual will give you explanations of each of the spaces if they do not have instructions on them already. Actually, it'll just repeat the instructions if they do, but like F5, the bazaar, is where all of your characters will start. If you land on this space, you can trade or buy a disguise. This is also the Devil goal. And there are other goals, like the Vampire goal down here in Limbo, and the Trollop goal over here on Avis. The overall goal of this game, and the reason that we have all of these chips, is to get 15 gold, and 10 fame, unless I got that backwards. 10 fame, 15 gold. Now I just want to express my appreciation at this point that whoever got their hands on this absolutely had a love for this property. All of these illustrations across all of these tiles, none of this had to happen. This could have been a very bog standard board with hardly any art and just a little bit of text giving vague nods to the subject matter, but no, there is an illustration or some kind of crazy party picture on every single tile. There is a lot of life here in the board, and there's a ton of life here on the character, companion, encounter, and disguise cards, so that's something that I really appreciate because it means whoever made this had care for it. This was back in 89, 90, and it really gives a no expense was spared type of vibe, at least for the kind of game that it is. And the kind of game that it is you have to get these two totals up to these numbers in order to win, which really reflects the plot of the book and serves as a pretty good introduction to the motives of the characters. You will achieve these goals by rolling your movement dice, being picky about which space you land on after having rolled your movement, and trying to increase the amount of gold and fame that you get, or making calculated risks to do so. Each player is dealt a character card. I suppose you could choose your own, but the characters here, stop me if any of them seem familiar. You'll be stopping me frequently, actually, if you're any sort of Robert Aspirin enjoyer. This is Vic the Vampire, Oz the Perfect, Skeeve the Clod, Tananda the Trollop, Masha the Jock, and yes, there are jocks and there are jerks in this universe. Hainer the Devil, that's a white beard, not spit, and Chumley the Troll. Each one of these characters has a name, obviously, a race, which is kind of important, and the type of die that they will roll whenever they are confronting another race. So, as a vampire, Vic will roll a d8 versus a Devil who will roll a d6. The roll-offs will determine, who's going to win the encounter, but the type of die will determine if you have the advantage or not. Vic will do very well encountering trolls, 8 versus 4, but do very poorly encountering clods, 4 versus 8. And on the accompanying clod card, you will see this information inversely repeated. So you always see this sort of reference table at the bottom, and it maintains consistency across all of the characters. Each player is then dealt 3 disguise cards and 3 companion cards. The disguise cards are interesting in that it's really just the races of the characters that are already in the game, and they have all of the same attributes. The disguise card will allow you to play as that race in confrontations, whilst also disguising which of the races you actually are for your player. When you're dealt your player card, you will keep it face down in front of you. You'll know what it is, but your opponents won't. When you are dealt your disguises, and of the disguises we also have the jocks, you will place one face up on top of your character card and keep the other 2 secret. When it's your turn, you can change which disguise you'd like to change into. It's important because when you get into an encounter, the person who you are encountering, you're challenging them. And when you do so, they've got to pick whether or not they want to reveal their player race or use a disguise card and reveal that. So that's already revealed basically, but you're challenging them with that sort of knowledge first. Then after they have done that, you select whether or not you want to play your disguise or your character, kind of keeping in mind the advantages and disadvantages in the tables underneath the characters' names and races. Hence, trying to be advantaged when you attack them. The companions are interesting in that they will really just help or hinder select roles, but this is where we really get a ton of different characters from the books. Whoever created this game definitely took every opportunity they had to make sure Nunzio, he was in the book that I read, had every opportunity to, and Guido too, to introduce you to as many flippant characters or reference as many characters as they could, so that when you play this as somebody who has read the books, you can say, oh, I know who this character is. It's Bunny. Oh, it's Bunny. There she is. Okay, and then we just continue on until we have seen all of our beautiful, lovely characters. All done. Each player is then dealt 6 encounter cards, and the gameplay flow is basically at the beginning, change into whatever disguise you want, change out your companion if you want. You can have a max of 3 of each, and if you don't have 3, you can draw to get more. You must have 6 encounter cards, draw to get more if you don't have them. Your discard piles will become shuffled and draw piles after everything's been exhausted. You'll start at the center and you will choose which 2 dice you would like to roll for movement. You can choose any 2 dice, so let's take a d4 and a d8 and roll them, and that's going to be my movement. It's a 6 and a 1, and that's important. It's not a 7, it's a 6 and a 1, or a 1 and a 6, and the reason that's important is because you will move the full amount of one of those of your choice if you can. For example, I cannot move the full 6 in any direction, so I have to forfeit that. I have to move a 1. And then you will move the full amount of the second. There are a couple of exceptions to this. I can't move the full 6 at all, so actually my entire movement is forfeit. That was a very foolish choice of dice to roll. Let's roll again. We'll do a 3 and a 2 instead. So you're going to roll and then choose the die to start your movement, and you'll move along one axis. You do not move diagonally, so I can move 3 directions, 3 spaces in any direction. Then I can move 2 spaces at a 90-degree angle. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I can land on one of these 4 spaces, or I can land on one of these 4 spaces, because those are the 8 spaces available to me if I move in any direction and apply any combination of 3 then 2 or 2 then 3. This is where the strategy of the game is, and as you can imagine, sometimes, kind of like in Talisman, if you were only able to move, say, 3 in one direction, then you can rest assured that pretty much a bad thing is going to happen. If that space is bad, then you're also going to get almost equal bad spaces equidistant from where you're at. So it's not always the case, but it's usually the case, at least from the very center of the board. Now, once you're like off to the corner, those variations become a lot more varied. I don't want to get into rambling at this point, so I'm just going to stop here by saying that that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the game without encounter cards. Every single one of these spaces has instructions that you follow, but it's going to result in either getting gold, or getting or losing fame, or you will actually lose disguises, or lose a companion, or gain a disguise, and the encounter cards are how you really mix things up. There are a lot of these encounter cards. They range from, oops, you lose your disguise, to double cross, play on anyone in a confrontation, spy in disguise, replace your companion card with any other of your choice. You don't get to look at another player's companions, just pick one. Myth cast spell. You are a twerp for 1 turn. In any confrontation, your opponent rolls 1d8 and you roll 1d4. And it just goes on like this. The rules are extremely simple. The gameplay, I would think, should get extremely monotonous, and we weren't impressed. We just were not impressed. So unfortunately, this game is a complete myth to me. Now, we have all these suggestive scenes on the artwork throughout this game, and it really does match the tone of the books. It does say 2 to 6 players ages 10 to adult. I don't know. It's fine. It's kind of good, clean fun, but it's mischievous. It is very mischievous. So perv. A bright idea. Backfire. This is a hilarious image, and it really does look like the same illustrators for the Mad Magazine board game, which I used to have a long time ago. It's not one that I would add to my collection again. It's very, very interesting, though. All right, so we have our encounter cards. These are played on whoever is going to control the actions, and this is basically the second half of the meat and potatoes. We have a couple of cards that are removed from this deck if you're wanting to play the advanced version, but it just ends up being like Dragon Poker and one other sort of mini game. If I already said meat and potatoes, then should I have said that this was the turkey and gravy of the game? I think so. I think we need to popularize that phrase combination. This is the real meat and potatoes. All right, so show me the turkey and gravy. Show me the green bean casserole and rolls. That's Myth Fortunes. I think that personally this was a myth take. I think I'll probably consider it myth placed in my collection, and while I really like having de facto versions of games that represent a specific universe that they're from, if they're not fun, I don't really want them taking up space. I do really like this format of game. This was popular with Mayfair Games' board games, which is probably obvious. I have the Xanth board game and the ElfQuest board game, and those games are all the exact same size. So you could absolutely build a shelf. I believe that some of these are referred to as bookshelf games, but like the Games Workshop bookshelf games are slightly different size. So it definitely isn't a standard, I would say, or if it is a standard, it's specific to the company making the games. I'll probably check out Xanth and ElfQuest next because those are also universes that I really love, but I haven't tried to play the games yet, and I don't know if I'll like them. They will definitely have been designed by other designers, I suspect, though, so I might appreciate them enough to keep. I don't want to myth-use any more of your time, though, so I thank you very much for your kind attention. If you liked the flow of this video, if you liked the general theming and the way that everything was done, let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate that sort of feedback instead of the, here's the timestamp for when he actually gets to the point. I mean, I understand those comments for like first-time viewers, but like when I see somebody who's been around a while and they've commented that, it's like, what are you doing? Have you not watched the way I do things? Maybe if everybody at once tells me, hey Ash, you should more be the sterile unboxing type, then I'll take that into consideration. But I've got to hightail it out of here, so I've been just desperate to do another myth pun. That's why I'm stalling. I hope you don't think that you've myth-clicked this video. I hope you didn't myth-place your trust in me. I know the subject matter was a little mythy, but we'll clean it up. Alright, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next exciting adventure. Until then, brave heroes, onward.